Okay, so today we're going to be focusing on parallel lines. Okay, so if you weren't sure what parallel lines are, they're just two lines that will never touch or ever cross over. Okay, so when you see these on a diagram, they will just look like two straight lines next to each other. So we're going to be focusing on the rules that come with parallel lines. Okay, so we're going to still be focusing on angles, but it's just angles within the parallel lines. Okay, so there's four main rules. Okay, some do have special names as well that we need to remember. Okay, but we'll go through them one by one. The first one, which is the easiest one, which actually doesn't really relate to parallel lines, but generally they do come up in these sorts of questions. So opposite angles, so imagine that two lines are crossed over. Okay, so these two lines won't be parallel because they would have crossed over. The angles opposite would be the same. Okay, so let's say, for example, this one is 70, then this one would also be 70. Okay, so if this one was 110, the one opposite would also be 110. Okay, and that's called opposite angles. Okay, so that's their particular name. Rule number 2, so now we are focusing on parallel lines. Before I actually say what this one is, they've got these lines here, have got little arrows. Okay, so they're just clarifying which two lines are parallel. So the two lines going horizontally are the ones that are parallel to one another. So these are called alternate angles. Okay, so that means that these two are the same. Now the best way to think of it is, the real name is called alternate angles, which starts with an A. Okay, if I draw here a Z shape, it's the angles within the Z that are the same. So I always think of the alphabet A to Z. Okay, so that's just another way of thinking of it. But yeah, generally, if you draw that little Z within it, it's those two angles within the Z, or in the corners of the Z, that are the same. Okay, next one is called corresponding. This one's a little bit odder, but it's a similar concept. We can draw a letter for it. So if I draw a letter F, like that, it's the angles that are underneath the two little lines. They are the same. Okay, now the only confusing bit of this is that some of the F shapes are not necessarily in a shape of an F. They might be like an upside down F, so I know some of them might be like this instead, and it's those two angles that are the same. So just be careful with those ones. The F won't always be upright. Okay, I've only done it upright so it makes more sense for your examples in your books. Okay, and then the last one, co-interior, it's also got another name. It's called supplementary. If you want to know how to spell it, supplementary. Oh, am I going to fit it in? Yeah. So that's just another word for it. I prefer co-interior because it's inside. So this one is slightly different to these two. They're not the same. They both add up to 180. So this one does also, again, have a letter for it, which is also why I like co-interior, because co starts with a C and it creates a C shape, and it's the angles inside of that C shape that will add up to 180. You can think of it as well as like train tracks, so the angles in train tracks are the same, but they have to be on the same side of that line going down. Okay, if they're on different sides, it will be alternate angles. Okay, so they're the four rules that you need to remember, and I'm going to show you then how to apply it to a question. Okay, so this is the sort of question you might get. Generally it'll be not as many. Generally you only need to find one, but I thought I might as well do a lot of them just to do lots of examples on one question. So we're going to start with X. Now with these questions, it does say we need to state your reasons. So that means we've got to say it's going to be this rule or it's going to be this rule, which is okay, but a lot of people think, oh, it could be this one, but it could be this one, and you're right, it can be more than one rule. Okay, so just pick one of them, you don't need to state all of them. So we're going to start with X first. So X, if you look, ignoring all this bit, we've got the crossover and the angles are opposite each other. So that means that X is going to be 75. Okay, and the reason why is because it's opposite angles. Okay, so that's using rule number 1 that we did on the other side. Okay, so y, there are different ways that you could work it out. Firstly, we could do it alternate. So if I draw the Z shape here, the angles inside the corners of the Z, so they would be the same. So you could say that y is 75 degrees because of alternate angles. Okay, and that would be enough. Or you could have said corresponding, because if I drew this here, you can see it would be a backwards F. If I turned it round, or it would be a flipped F maybe, you can see the F shape but in the wrong direction. So that means that those two would be the same. Okay, so you could have said that instead. You could have said or corresponding. Okay, so that's what I mean. There isn't always one answer for it. There might be a few, and you can just pick one of them, whichever one you prefer. I think I would have done the top one, alternate. Okay, and for the last one, so we've only got Z left. Again, multiple ways. So we could say, you should know now what angles on a straight line add up to. So angles on a straight line add up to 180. So because we know what y is now, because we've just shown that it's 75 because they're alternate, we could say that that would be 180 take away 75, which is 105. And just write because it's on a straight line. Okay, if you wanted to use one of the rules that we've done today, you could have used the co-interior one. Okay, so if I had drawn a C shape this way, the angles X and Z are within those C's. Okay, so this is the rule where these two add up to 180 degrees. So similarly to what I've done here, it would be 180 take away 75, because we know that X is 75 from here. And then you've got the same answer. So I'll write that here, or co-interior. You could have used a posh word, you could have said supplementary, but either way, it'll be fine. So I hope that's helped explain what parallel lines are. If you need any more help, then I might do some more videos. Okay, bye.